Hello and welcome. My name is Tim Shank.
And I'm Brian McAvoy. This is Two Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by Twin Cities Plus, creating an intelligent, capable, and resilient community. Today's topic is acetylcholine for focus and memory. If you recall, Tim is the expert on nootropics, which modulate neurotransmitters like acetylcholine. So Tim, is this the one all those clickbait articles called the limitless drug?
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, Brian. There really isn't anything like that's fiction, but there are some parallels. So acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, and one of the ways that this neurotransmitter is in your body is in the neuromuscular system, where it helps with reflexes and some of the peripheral nervous system. But what we want to talk about is how it works in the brain. Acetylcholine affects attention, memory storage, and recall.
All the things that you'd want a smart drug to help you with.
Right.
How do the smart drugs play into this? What role do they play?
What we'll focus on, and what we're really concerned with, is how it works in the brain. Because this is a chemical that sits in the neurons and encourages a certain neurons to fire or not.
So in that regard, it's kind of like TDCS.
In a way it is.
Or transcranial direct current stimulation.
Yeah, in a way it is, but it's specific to certain neural pathways. So with acetylcholine, there's a few things to consider. First is production. Are the materials needed to create acetylcholine available in the body? And if not, how can we make sure that the body can create acetylcholine? There's also a chemical that's called acetylcholine esterase, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct. What acetylcholine esterase does is it breaks down acetylcholine. So we can also modulate acetylcholine by inhibiting or blocking acetylcholine esterase. Then there are a number of chemicals that you'd normally consider nootropics that increase acetylcholine production. So there's kind of three different elements in the whole concept. One, providing materials for acetylcholine. Two, increasing production of acetylcholine in the brain. And then the third is to prevent its breakdown or to slow its breakdown within the body.
And what causes it to break down?
It's an enzyme. Acetylcholine esterase is an enzyme. So the enzymes are folded proteins that catalyze reactions within chemical reactions. So acetylcholine esterase breaks down, it's a protein that breaks down the molecular structure of acetylcholine.
Okay, so the amount of acetylcholine in our system it's not like it's used up as we think or process. It's broken down by other processes in the body.
Yeah. And it may be used up. I don't think that's the case, but you'd have to do some research or be a neuroscientist, I think, to have that. Let's talk about the building blocks of acetylcholine, and the main one is choline. So that's something you can get from eggs. You can also get it as a supplement. It's in other dietary sources. And just by making sure that you have enough choline in your body, that does make sure you're optimized, even without any nootropics, for producing acetylcholine. So eating eggs helps you have what you need to concentrate and to store memories and retrieve them.
So are these the things that people call brain food?
I think so.
Okay. Do you find it in fish? I know I always hear people referring to fish, especially like the orange ones, like salmon, as brain food.
Not for acetylcholine that I know of. What it's in fish oil that is required by the brain is DHA, which is one of the two oils that's in fish oil. It's I can't tell you which one, but there's DHA and there's DEA in typical fish oil, and DHA is brain food. So that's I think it's a different thing, but similar maybe.
Working on something else, but it's okay. But eggs are an easy one.
Eggs, or you can get a choline supplement. Those are available anywhere. You can go to get them at Walgreens or online or whatever. So you can choose to just take the pill. It's a natural substance. There's no, as far as I know, there's no health issues with taking the recommended dosage. I do know somebody who has taken, I think, more choline than they needed, and it resulted in depression. So
Really?
Yeah. Well, when you're messing with brain chemistry, everybody's so different and reacts so differently to various substances. But
Yeah.
I do know somebody who had a problem with depression, and I think it was because of an overload of acetylcholine. Choline itself is not the cause of that, but it's hard to say because when I do this, I'm just hacking my way through it. I'm not actually testing. I don't have the ability to do an MRI and see what's actually going on.
So if somebody just goes to Walgreens, like you said, goes to the drugstore and picks up a bottle of this and they take the recommended dosage, what kind of change can they expect to see just by taking the recommended dosage?
I think with all of these, people expect the limitless experience. I mean, they've seen that on TV, and it's never like that. I mean, you can take steps in a direction like that, but for the most part, you don't notice these changes, especially with just like choline supplementation. You don't. It's a small boost, but probably not enough to even notice. Let's talk about the acetylcholine esterase though, because as acetylcholine is created, it's also broken down by that enzyme. So there are a few substances known as acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. Galantamine is the one that I use. It might be pronounced galantamine. So what that does is it inhibits the production of acetylcholine esterase, which allows more acetylcholine to build up in your system.
Okay. And that taking too much of this inhibitor, I'm guessing, can also lead to levels of acetylcholine that could be responsible for the depression you mentioned.
If that and other things, too much acetylcholine is not a good thing. I mean, there's always a threshold where you don't want to go too far. And I don't know what the health issues that'll come with too much choline or too much acetylcholine over an extended period of time. With all of these nootropics, there's a couple of things you want to really be sure of. You don't want to build up a tolerance because then you'll need more and more to have the effect that you're looking for. And you don't want to cause your body to down-regulate that neurotransmitter. So if you are taking choline and an acetylcholine esterase inhibitor and also an acetylcholine agonist, which we'll get into in a moment here, if you took that every day for a year, eventually your brain's just going to be like, okay, I don't need to produce acetylcholine anymore. I can turn that down. In which case, taking the supplements doesn't really help anymore. So your body and brain adjust to ensure a consistent level of acetylcholine. If you consistently supplement for it, then your body learns that it doesn't need to work so hard to create it. So what I always do with all nootropics is I do 4 days on and 3 days off. It's not exactly 50-50, but that 3 days of not messing with my chemistry allows my body to get back to a baseline of some sorts where it's actually working as it should, rather than being enhanced all the time, because if you're enhanced all the time, it just changes the normal.
Yeah. Well, I think most of us have seen something similar. If you drink coffee every single day, then you need coffee every single day.
Right. And it stops waking you up.
Yeah, it just becomes, like you said, it becomes the norm. And then it's not effective. You're back to square one where you started when you were tired.
Right. So like I say, I do a 4 day on, 3 day off cycle. I don't think that that's the only way to do it. You could do a week on, a week off. You could do 2 weeks on and a week off. I mean, there's a number of ways to do that. But the main thing is to make sure that you give your body a chance to return to normal functioning for at least a period of time that allows you to be normal for a little bit.
Well, that sounds like a pretty safe way to experiment, where you can take it and then stop and see where you notice the most change.
Absolutely.
I like it.
So the other and probably main thing we want to talk about here is the acetylcholine agonist. An acetylcholine agonist will increase the production of acetylcholine, given that there's enough choline in the system. So there's a number of those, and these are what we really consider to be the nootropic portion. You know, that's what the nootropic is.
I'm interested.
So the main ones that do, and they came out of Russia back, I think, in the 60s is when they started developing. They're called the racetam family of chemicals.
Okay.
I think there's maybe 20 of them. So there's they're all very similar molecules, but they each kind of have different effects. So I've used aniracetam, suniracetam, coliracetam. There's just a number of slightly different molecules that are all in the racetam class.
Pikachu racetam, yeah. Sorry, they're starting to sound like Pokemon names.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, but then there's something that's a little bit newer and more powerful than piracetam is the main. That's the main one and the first, I think. Since then, they've modified that piracetam molecule to a number of different other kind of configurations that allow it to do slightly different things. But one of the newer developments, I think, is Nupept, and that's a neuropeptide that has some of the same effects, but some say 10 times stronger than piracetam or any of the racetam. So that's the one I've mainly used. And Nupept is available online and probably at your local stores, but you won't find that at Walgreens or the drugstores. You might have to go to something that's more geared towards a full supplement store, GNC or something.
Okay.
So maybe we should just kind of back up and make sure we understand the whole concept. So you want to have the building blocks to create the neurotransmitter. That's choline, which your body then turns into acetylcholine. You use something like Nupept or one of the another of the racetam family to increase production of the acetylcholine. And then there's the third part, which is the acetylcholine esterase inhibitor, which allows the choline to persist for longer in the body. So the three as a whole are a pretty solid acetylcholine boost. One thing to be careful of with all this is you can go too far. Too much acetylcholine.
About that.
Yeah, too much acetylcholine can result in just the opposite effect that we're looking for. You can have brain fog, confusion, stuff like that.
So let's say somebody who hasn't taken any supplements, someone, hey, like me, I don't take anything. What if I wanted to start in on this, and what could I do today that would get me on this track?
Eat 5 eggs a day and then take some Nupept. And it's a small amount you need. I think it's 10 milligrams once a day. Would be easy to do, and there's not much expense into it. If you can't eat that many eggs per day, because you don't want to run yourself out of choline either, because that also results in issues like brain fog and confusion. So if you can't eat 5 eggs a day, you can go get choline supplements. I use alpha GPC, which is really that's the most effective of the choline supplements. There are a couple others that are other versions of choline that are broken down differently in the body but have the same effect.
Okay. 5 eggs and Nupept, 10 milligrams. All right.
5 eggs and Nupept, 10 milligrams. And the acetylcholine esterase, be careful inhibiting that can cause other issues. So the main thing is when you're doing it, don't double your dosage every day. Some people do that and it always goes bad.
Oh yeah, so 5 eggs, 10 milligrams of Nupept every other day.
Sure, that'd be a great way to start.
I can remember that. That's an easy recipe.
Yeah.
Not delicious, but easy recipe.
What's not delicious about Nupept?
Well, I haven't tried eating Nupept, but I know how eggs taste, and 5 of them, I can imagine what that would taste like.
Yeah, not so bad.
They don't have to be raw, right?
No, but better if they are, because eggs also have glutamate in them, which is a neurotransmitter all by itself. We'll talk about that in another one.
All right, well, I won't egg you on.
You're awesome, Brian. That's great. So another thing I do want to bring up, if you're doing research on this, there's kind of a system that I use. I guess it's not a system, it's just practice. What I do when I'm researching nootropics or neurotransmitters, I always zero in on start with the neurotransmitter that you're trying to modulate. So in this case, acetylcholine. And then I do a series of searches. Acetylcholine agonist, acetylcholine prodrug, acetylcholine precursor, and I think maybe that's it. You want to look at what the building blocks are, what creates it, what is converted to it, and then how it's broken down. And then beyond that, you want to do a search on any kind of interactions between the drugs you're using. If you're going to supplement alpha GPC to add choline to your system, you want to research alpha GPC interactions to make sure that nothing else you're taking, vitamins or painkiller, whatever it is going to have a reaction with that that's not going to be what you're looking for.
That's a good point. Like I said, I don't take any supplements. So for me, I don't have to worry about interactions because I might take ibuprofen once, maybe twice a month.
It's always very important to be careful. I mean, especially tinkering with the neurotransmitter. I mean, my wife was, when I talked about somebody who got depressed, that was my wife, and she was taking the same thing at the same dosage at the same time as I was, but her body reacted differently. And we think it was the choline, but we don't know for sure. So it's always important to do the research ahead of time and then be very aware of any kind of issues. Because like with the issue with the depression, it kind of crept in. It took a week before she even realized that was happening. And by that time, it can be pretty unpleasant. So it's really important to listen to your body and do thorough research. And don't do any more than you need to get to the desired result. It doesn't make sense to do more than you need. That just results in, that can only result in issues.
Danger. Yeah, once again, Tim and I are not doctors. If you're unsure, consult your physician.
Gotta have that disclaimer.
Don't sue us. We don't have anything. Don't bother suing us.
Yeah, you won't get nothing out of me. So I think we can wrap this up, Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. We'd like to invite our listeners to email us at twocybors@twincitiesplus.org.
Best news ever. You can put 2 Cyborgs on your back. We have ultra stylish hooded sweatshirts with the 2 Cyborg logo in all of its majesty available. Support our podcast and look absolutely fabulous doing it. This is Tim Shank.
And this is Brian McAvoy. You've been listening to 2 Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by Twin Cities Plus, creating an intelligent, capable, and resilient community.
Like, follow, share, +1, and don't forget to subscribe on any of the popular podcast services like Google Play Music, iTunes, or Stitcher. Help us move up the podcast ladder by subscribing and commenting on iTunes.
That really helps us out. Say something.
Something?
Thank you.
It's a lot of big words, you know?